Hello class and welcome to Replicate This PSD edition. This is exercise number 3 video tutorial. Exercise 3 is called Hungry Travelers, and if we look in Acrobat here, we will see that it is a picture of a London train station and has just 4 characters here that are in color and everything else is in black and white, except for this type, of course. We are going to be isolating the people, we're going to be putting signs behind them and adding a little bit of typography. So let's jump in. Now one thing you might notice that's a little bit different about this tutorial is that I'm using what's called Mouse Pose, which is a utility that allows you to see my mouse clicks with this orangey sort of growing dot every time I click, as well as when I do something like Command Tab to switch apps, you will see the the keystrokes, that's the word I'm looking for. You'll see the keystrokes at the bottom of the screen. So that is what's happening here. For example, if I wanted to select the pen tool in Photoshop and I hit P, you would see that I just hit P. That's in case if I forget to say it. I'm going to hit V to go back to our Move tool. And well, you know what? Before we go into Photoshop, we actually need to go to the Finder and we need to go to Exercise 3 folder under Replicate This PSD source folder and open up trainstation.jpg in Photoshop. There we go. This is our workspace. I'm going to click the Layers panel here, and what I like to do when I have a brand new non-layered file is to double-click the background layer just to unlock it. It usually renames it Layer 0. And I know that we're going to need at least 2 layers here, so I'm going to hit Command J, which is create a new layer via copy. And let's name our layers here. I happen to know, because I've done this before, that the bottom layer is going to be in black and white, so I'm going to call that one B&W. I'm going to call the top one Color. Color is spelled C-O-L-O-R, not C-O-L-R, as much as it sounds like it should be. Okay. We are going to use probably all non-destructive editing here. So what that means is we're going to add a layer mask. We're going to use some adjustment layers to convert things to black and white. And I'm going to introduce you to what's called a smart object, which will be our little black signs that say hungry. So let's get started. First, let's convert this bottom layer. Let's turn off our top layer. And let's convert the black and white layer so it's actually black and white. With that layer selected, let's go down to Adjustment Layers and go to Black and White, which will automatically make it black and white. If we wanted to, we could adjust some of these levels. See what happens when I mess with the reds, the greens, blues. All of them will allow you to sort of bring out more detail. I'm just going to leave that. I don't remember what it was by default. I think it was, but I kind of like those levels there, so I'm going to leave that alone. Go back to my layer and turn back on the color layer, and we can see that we need to do some cutting out, don't we? Let's start with this guy right here because he is he's got the least amount of obstacles around him. Now I'm just going to do a very quick, I'm going to grab my lasso here, which is L. I'm going to do a quick, sorry about that, that orange dot is actually kind of annoying here. Now I am holding down the Option key. As you can see, the lasso has become sort of a sharp looking lasso. When I hold down Option, it becomes the magnetic lasso, which means that I can let go of my mouse while I'm drawing here. I don't have to just constantly hold down and click and draw freehand. I can let go of it while holding down Option, and it's going to make this stretchy lasso, which never lets go and finishes the selection for me. Quick like, this is not as quick as I would like it to be. There we go. Okay, we've got a selection on this dude on our color layer. Now what we are going to need, like I mentioned earlier, is a layer mask. So what does the layer mask icon look like, you might ask? Well, it's in the layers panel, of course. It's this thing right here. It looks like the Japanese flag. Let's click that, zoom back out, and you can see in our layer mask thumbnail what we have here is an all-black thumbnail with a little white outline right here around this guy. Now see what that's doing. If you remember the rhyme we used in class, if white conceals and white reveals and black conceals, that means that everything on this color layer is hidden, that's black, and the only thing that shows through is this little white figure right here. Okay, now we need to, if you go back to the PDF, we can see that this girl, this guy, and this guy, who doesn't even have the courtesy to look at us, are all going to be in color. So let's zoom in here on our friend J.K. Rowling's little sister. And let's do a quick outline. Maybe when I go back and edit this video, I will speed this up so you don't have to sit here and watch me outlining her. Wow, not doing a great job here. Quick and dirty outline. I want to show you something after I do this. I'm going to purposefully make a mistake here and chop off some of her leg and get some of this outside stuff. And I'm just going to go like that. Okay, really bad job down here that I want to fix. Now, before we fix that, here, let's zoom out to 100%. That's Command Option 0, by the way. I'm going to make sure that I have my color layers, layer mask thumbnail selected. Now, if white reveals and black conceals, according to this thumbnail, we are going to need her to be painted white on the thumbnail. Now, if I look over here on my foreground color, I see that it is white, so I can then, now that I've got the selection, I can just fill it with white, right? I could go to Edit, Fill with the foreground color, which happens to be white. Okay? She is now in color, because if we look at our thumbnail over here, we have got two figures that are white, which means the color is showing through. Now, let's zoom back in. Let's deselect, Command D, and you can see that her leg looks like she's got some sort of bizarre burn, third-degree burn there. We do not want that. Let's click B for brush. Yeah, that's about the right size. I'm going to hit left bracket. If I paint with white, what's going to happen? As long as I've still got that selected, that is. If I paint with white, the color is going to show through wherever I paint. And although you can't see it, this part over here, I could toggle by hitting X and paint with black to erase any of this mess that I created out here. So you can paint, or you can use your lasso and fill. I'm a fan of the lasso and the Option Delete shortcut, but it's up to you. Okay, real quick, let's zoom in on this guy who evidently went shopping. I'm holding down Option while I draw so I can let go of my mouse and just sort of get the basic strokes here. I actually got a little bit of that dude's suitcase in back, but that's all right. This is an example. I expect that you guys, when you do this exercise, will take all of the care necessary. Let's cut that dude's head out to give yourselves a pretty accurate outline. Okay, we got his briefcase, we got his coat in. Well, that wasn't good. But again, we can fix that after the fact. Let's make sure that's selected, and let's fill it with not black, but white. Hit X to toggle, fill a foreground with background, Option Delete. Now this guy's in color. That turns out that doesn't matter that much. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect and leave that alone. And last but not least is this guy that looks like Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm and Seinfeld. Pull that out there. And you know what, I'm going to show you what the brush approach does. If I just select my layer mask thumbnail and I paint with white, you can see that he comes alive in full color. You can see his blue jacket. Oops, I painted that dude in back. I'm going to undo and start over again. It's not quite as accurate as the lasso, which is one of the disadvantages. This guy's wearing pretty, oh, he's got brown shoes on. Pretty dull colored clothing. But this is not a commentary on people's fashion, so. Kind of got a cool lightish blue leather jacket. That's interesting. Okay, so as you can see, I painted a little white figure here in my layer thumbnail, so this guy's in color now too. Alright, Command Option 0 takes us out. We now have a layer that has everything cut out except for the four figures. Our color layer shows nothing but the four figures, which essentially, all this black is transparency, right? So if we wanted to put stuff behind it, we could, which we're going to do in a second. But for now, let's grab our Type tool, and let's click here. And as we can see from our PDF, this needs to say something like, "Didn't eat breakfast today." This is an ad for some unknown Kellogg's cereal. Let's see if I can spell. didn't eat breakfast today. Let's hit the Enter key. Let's change our type color up here in our options menu from white to sort of a deep blood red. What is this? This is Verdana. I happen to know that this is Myriad. Let's scroll up to Myriad Bold. Myriad is here. Myriad Pro Bold. Didn't eat breakfast today. That is, let's guess, 24 point? Let's see how closely this mirrors the example. That's pretty good. It could be a little bit bigger though, so I'm going to hit Command-T to get the free transform. And I'm going to hold down Shift while I pull this, and also hold down Option so that it scales from the center. And let go, and hit the Enter key again to seal that transformation that I just made. Now, what is the difference between the typography, on here and the typography on here? It is in the letter spacing. You're correct. So let's select all this, and let's go over here to our Type panel, and let's make our tracking a negative digit, like 40 is a bit much, negative 20. That looks pretty good. Hit Enter, hit V to get our Move tool, and let's position that in there. That looks pretty good. Let's call that good. You guys don't have to get exact, you just have to get it as close as you can. I apologize for the fan that's blowing in the background. Let's do the last step, which is the hungry signs. The hungry signs behind our people. We're going to use the vector shape layer, or the live shape, whatever we're calling it nowadays, to make a rectangle about that big. We do not want a white rectangle, we want a black rectangle. When I draw with the live shape tool, the rectangle tool, this little properties panel automatically comes out, and I can see that I have a fill and a stroke option here, so I'm going to change the fill to black. There we go, and I'm going to grab my type tool, and the type is meant to say hungry in white. So I'm going to go up here instead of red, I'm going to select white, click OK. I'm going to move our hungry word down here, and I'm going to hit Command-T so we can scale it up. That's pretty good. The letter spacing is looking pretty good. Actually, let's space it out a little bit. Let's go to character. Yeah, we don't want negative. Let's go to positive 25. How about that? Oops. Escape to get out of that. Hit V to grab our Move tool. That's pretty good. Okay, let's go back to our Layers panel. We have a type layer called Hungry, and we have Rectangle 1. What we're going to make is what's called a shape. We are going to make what's called a Smart Object, and there are a couple ways to do that. We can go up to Layer, Smart Objects, Convert to Smart Object, or we can right-click or control-click on our selected layers and just say Convert to Smart Object. What this does is sort of groups them together into one layer. If we were to double-click this, we would see that these things are editable in their own actually it's called a PSB file, which is essentially this nested smart object. But anyway, the cool thing that it does is you can select a bunch of layers and make them into one layer or smart object. So that is our hungry sign. Look what happens when I drag our hungry sign behind our color layer. It goes behind our little friend here, and we want to copy this hungry smart object. So I'm going to hit Command-J, Command-J, and Command-J, because I know we're going to need 4. I'm going to grab our second duplicate and put it behind J.K. Rowling's little sister. And I'm going to grab copy 2 and put it behind Larry David, or in front of Larry David since he's not looking at us rudely. And I'm going to put this one behind this guy right there. That is essentially what you're going to do with this file. Let's click Save. You're going to show me your layered PSD when these are due. And that's it for today. Thanks.